Thanks for checking out this movie review video. So this is for the 2021 film Seance. It's a Shudder original film, and it's coming to Shudder on Wednesday, September 29th. Um, Now, I need to say this up front. Every film is worth watching at least once, I believe, just to figure out how you personally feel about it. Now, if you've been watching my reviews long enough, you know what this means. That means I am not a big fan of this film at all. I have a lot of problems with it, and I'll go over those problems without spoilers. I'm not spoiling things with this film, but from like a subtext thematic thing, some of that stuff might come up a little bit, but there's not that much here. Actually, there's none of that here, to be honest. But another thing that's kind of a disclaimer for me, I'm not into this type of film typically. So you can make a decision. Maybe you need to watch it, but if your views on films and your opinions on, what film you like and what you don't like typically line up with mine, you might want to skip this one, to be honest. But anyway, I'll go over everything because there were some things I enjoyed about the film. Written and directed by Simon Barrett, who did a segment for VHS 2, that's the anthology, which those are pretty fun. He also wrote the script for the film A Horrible Way to Die, which I have seen. I don't have a review for it, but I have seen, and I remember enjoying that film. He also wrote the script for Your Next. I enjoyed that film, not as much as a lot of other people, but I know that's a big fan favorite. A lot of people in the horror community really like that one. And he also wrote the script for the original VHS, I think, not for all of it. But anyway, so as you can see, most of his experience is in writing, not in directing, and unfortunately that really shows. Directing and cinematography, not so hot in this film. Very basic directing, very basic cinematography. There's some things that are very wrong with the way it looks, and I'll go over those things in a little bit, but overall it doesn't look good. Now, this is a big departure from normally films that I end up not liking, especially these Shudder exclusive and originals. Usually I don't really like the script, I don't really like the pacing, I don't really like the acting, stuff like that, but it looks good. This is an exception. It does not look good. Now, I will say, maybe it has something to do, at least an aspect of it, maybe it has to do with the screener copy I was given to watch. So just know that. That could be possible. Looks-wise, it might not all be the fault of Barrett and his cinematographer. I don't know, but I'm just putting the information out there. Once again, this is coming to Shudder on Wednesday, September 29th. Apparently, very interestingly enough, they couldn't find a school. It takes place at a school. They couldn't find a school to actually let them use the campus to film. So they ended up basically cobbling together the feel of a campus, of a school campus by using a bunch of random buildings, including like a bank at one point, which, to be honest, is smart because banks do kind of look like schools if you shoot them the right way. So bravo in getting creative and being able to pull off making it actually look like a school. Sucks that campuses weren't open to letting you use their place. That is ridiculous. Anyway, quick synopsis of it. It's about a bunch of women at a school. I believe it's an all-girls school, and they have a seance. Something happens. Someone dies, and we go from there. I don't want to give too much away because if you do want to check out this film, I don't want to spoil things. I don't do that. So the opening segment to this film is very cliche, and it ends with a shot that eventually brings up the title of the film that features a lens flare. Now, if you've been watching my reviews enough, you know that this usually sets off the uh-oh moment in my brain when I see a lens flare, especially early on in a film. This could be bad. And from a directorial cinematography, it's not so good. Lens flares typically are a sign of a filmmaker who's not very polished. Also, lens flares are not something that people really use anymore. It's used in a proper way, used in an interesting way, sure. That's not done here. It actually just looks like a mistake the way it's done in this, and that speaks to some other stuff. But I'll get to it. The acting is not that great. Pretty wooden a lot of the times. There are a few performances that are pretty solid, and even some of the actors at certain times have, even when they're not doing that hot, like they have their moments where they do kind of good. So, low budget horror film type fare as far as the acting goes. So some people just expect that. I kind of do, but it's not great acting. A lot of the scenes that are done in the dark are too dark. You can't really see. It's hard to see. This is one of the things I harp on a lot. You have to properly light scenes so that people can see enough of what's going on if you're shooting it. Like, there's no point in having a scene if people can't see what's going on. Now, it's not to the point where it's like a movie like Alien versus Predator Requiem. That is just unwatchable for how dark it is. But there are a lot of moments where you're just like, have to put your face on the screen, and you're just like, what am I seeing? Like, is there something here? Is there something there? It's tough. So that's a big no-no as far as filmmaking goes. It appears to not be shot in HD, which in 2021, we should be shooting in HD. It's very easy, it's economical. Even if you have a low budget, you can shoot in HD. It's a thing. I don't know if, once again, this was one of those issues where it's just the copy of screener that I was given to watch. That could be the instance, but whatever I watched looks like it's definitely not shot in HD. And in 2021, that should not be happening, in my opinion. Light sources have a border of blurry glow around them at times. As in, like, actual light fixtures that pop on, as in someone standing in front of a window that has sunlight coming through it. There's this glowing ring of blurriness around them, which is not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be there. And this couples with that lens flare thing I was talking about, saying that it didn't look like it was intentional. I'm just saying. So problems. There's no character depth. The characters are very one-dimensional. They're not interesting. You don't really want to know much about them either. They're not well written, to be honest. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant at the very end of this about something specific that bothers me about the characters. It might not be something that bothers many people, but for me, it is, and I feel like I should throw it out there. But I'll wait until the very end for that one. The film doesn't have much flow to it. It kind of, a lot of the times, feels like it's a bunch of scenes kind of just cobbled together. They don't flow to one another all that well. It feels very abrupt. The other thing is, some characters just have a tendency to just pop up, and it doesn't really make sense that they would just pop up at that time just randomly. So there's that as well. So I just don't think the writing was all that great for this, which is weird because it's coming from Barrett, who obviously has good pedigree with writing. So I don't really know what happened here. The music is pretty good. I did quite like the music. It's very interesting. It's not just in the sense that like it's well executed music, because it is. It's also that it's interesting music. It's very interestingly composed. So shout out to Sicker Man. He's the person who did the composure of the music. Good job. It's very interesting, and it does match pretty well with the scenes, so I really like that aspect of the film. The scares are really cheap, and to the point where they are eye roll inducing, I would say. There is some stuff later in the film that has a lot better payoff, which I'll talk about in a second, but for the most part, jump scares, stuff that's supposed to scare you, creep you out, not very good. Like I said, cheap. There is a twist. Now, part of it I saw coming because I felt like it was a bit obvious, but overall, I didn't get the whole thing. I didn't see it all coming, and it actually wasn't that bad of a twist. It was a solid enough twist. Now, I'm not one of those people who's going to chide a film for having a twist to it that I personally saw coming. I think that's a stupid thing to do. But if I did see it coming, I will kind of wag my finger at a film if it's just unbelievably obvious, like they were beating every audience member over the head with this and totally telegraphing that this is where it was going. Now, this film does not do that, so I will say, solid job in not telegraphing all that much on what would end up happening. And even what I did kind of guess about what was coming at the end, I didn't get all of it. I got like a portion, so nice. So that's good. There is a solid enough twist, so yeah. There's a pretty well choreographed action scene that's about an hour and 15 minutes into the film, and the film's like it's like an hour and 36 minutes, I think, about that. So good, really nice, very surprising, well choreographed action scene that's then followed by a really nice gore gag, actually. And then that's followed by another very nice gore gag. So I would say the last, like, 15 minutes of the film, well, it's a little bit more than that since it's about an hour and 36. So the last, like, 20 minutes of the film, pretty solid. The problem is everything before that, not very solid. Very problematic, in my opinion. So the ending isn't that bad, but it's not well paced. That's just one of the main themes with this, is the pacing is bad in general with this film. Obviously, it gets better at the end, but it's still not that great. So yeah, there's a lot of time wasting that goes on in this film. You can tell, those scenes that are just stretched for kind of runtime, or some other reason that I can't decipher, but that's part of what kills the pacing of the film. Just this downtime that's not there for any real reason. Now, you can do those types of things. You can stretch it out and still have it be interesting if you're developing characters a lot. There is some attempt at developing characters in this, but it doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, just spend your time, your wasted time, just spend that in interesting ways. Have a little bit of comedy thrown in there, or develop the characters, develop relationships with the characters. There's not a lot of that goes on. A lot of the wasted time, it just feels like just wasted time, and that is not fun. Very basic directing and choreography, cinematography. Yeah, I already said that. Now, I want to read you an actual quote that I wrote down that was actually in the film. And think about this. This quote is actually in the film. I guess it's difficult to know why ghosts do what they do. Yeah, so not a good line of dialogue, and that's emblematic of what's going on here writing wise. So not great. The story is not compelling, nor are the characters. There are no interesting or new ideas, except the ending is kind of an interesting-ish twist. Just a bunch of stuff we've all seen a million times, up until you hit that last 20 minutes. It is so cliche. It is very uninspired. It is very uninteresting. Now, the last 20 minutes, kind of interesting. I would relate this to kind of how I viewed, and people don't kill me for this, how I viewed Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. I did not at all like the first, like, hour plus of it. I just felt like it was just ripped from other movies, basically. And then, like, the last 15 minutes or so with the whole Dr. Satan thing in the underground, like, that was awesome. That was interesting. Very, very cool. So that's kind of how I felt about this film, is like everything before it, just ugh. But then like the last 20 minutes, I was like, okay, kind of interesting here. If the whole film was kind of like this, then thumbs up, but it wasn't. Okay, so I'm about to go on my little bit of a rant thing. I will read what I wrote down verbatim, and then I will elaborate a little bit. A word of advice to a male writing female characters. Speak to women and get them to read your script. Putting dialogue in like, I have cramps, seems lazy, reductive, and honestly kind of sexist. So I know women. I have a wife. I have female friends. I have females I interact with via social media and in real life. And I'm not saying that I have the best feel of how to write a female character, but I am saying that if I were going to do that, I would confer with females. Now, maybe that did happen in this instance, but these female characters feel unfemale. You can tell that they're not written by a woman or even informed by ideas from women. And the biggest moment that really hit that for me was when there's a character who's trying to come up with basically an excuse for something in the film and says, I had cramps. Come on. Putting something like that in a film, like I said, it's lazy, it's reductive, and it makes you come off as kind of sexist, to be honest. It's not a good look. It's not adding anything to the film at all. That's just like going to the ridiculous bit of dialogue of, I had my period, or like, are you PMSing? Stuff like that. We don't do that anymore, okay? We don't do that. That's just my rant about this. Learn from it. Just saying. Anyway, everyone else, if you, everyone, I'm so thrown off by this, not a fan of this film at all. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give this a 1-star rating. There were a few things I really liked, especially the score. Very good score by Sicker Man. I hope Sicker Man gets more work, because nice score. And, you know, check out the film if you want. And if you do decide to watch it, especially if you feel differently than I do, and I'm sure there will be those people, go ahead and comment down here and tell me, what did you like? What really hit you as being good? Because maybe there's some stuff I didn't really pick up on. Maybe there's some stuff I kind of missed. Maybe there's some stuff I'm biased against because this isn't my type of subgenre typically. And I'm really open to listening to other people's opinions on this stuff. So that would be awesome if people would, you know, comment and we can have a dialogue about it. But you can also comment if you totally agree with me. That's fine. Also, go ahead and put spoilers in the comments. That's fine. You can do that. Do me a quick favor, though. Hit subscribe if you can, and you can. It literally takes a second. It costs you $0, and it helps me out in staying motivated to do these reviews, especially when it's for stuff like this. So yeah, I would appreciate that. But regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this. And until next time, keep it brutal.